unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Thank you, Mr. Announcer Man. Welcome back to another episode of the Raw and Unscripted show with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, your no excuses coach. And we are here at the Raw and Unscripted podcast designed to help you overcome your excuses and eliminate your excuses in favor of having kick-ass unstoppable results. Appreciate you guys being here. We are here live on the video cast every single Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live. The reason why that is so you can show up here and you can engage with me. You can ask me questions. You can be a part of the conversation every single week, no matter where you are in the world. And I understand sometimes it's a long time delay. So you can always, of course, catch us on replay on the video cast, wherever you got this link. And of course, it's on youtube.com/the Christopher Rausch, RAUSCH, or you can, of course, go to always www.rawandunscripted.com. So there you go. There you have it. I appreciate you guys all being here, whether you're live or on the replay. Tonight, we're going to be talking about procrastination, self-sabotage. We just did an episode called Self-Sabotage, and where we incorporate procrastination. But I've had quite a few people reaching out to me recently and said, hey, can you talk about procrastination, why we do it? Of course, that's what we do here on the show, as we get down to the root of the situation, but also what are some ways that we can shift our perspective about the reasons why we procrastinate, how we can get out of our own way. So we're going to be doing that tonight. So I encourage you to take notes. And if you're here live, I encourage you to ask me questions, and I'm happy to answer them for you guys. I appreciate it. Last week, we had a guest. You may have missed last week. We had Yvonne Silver on the show. I can't even believe it's already been 7 days. It's pretty ridiculous how fast time goes by. But Yvonne and I had a great conversation talking about life and how life throws obstacles and curves and tough situations in your path. And she talked about recently going through a divorce at a more elevated age in her life. She also talked about being the mother of a special needs son and what that took from her and what she learned from that. And then, of course, we also talked about artificial intelligence and how you, specifically as a woman, because a lot of women listen to this podcast, how you as a woman, or really as a person, can sit there and change your perspective about artificial intelligence, harness it and use it in your life, because there's going to be two people out there. There's going to be the people that use it and are still successful, and there's going to be the people who flip it off and say they don't need it and will potentially be left in the dust. So we talked about that. And it's really all about that. It's really about shifting your perspective about where it is that you are and seeing things through a different lens. And that's really what procrastination is all about, because when we sit there and we think about why we procrastinate, it's kind of ridiculous, right? We lie to ourselves. We give ourselves false facts appearing as real. And I'm thinking about this in terms of, like, have you ever looked at your to-do list and thought, why can't I just do the thing? Right? Why can't I just do the thing? You know what needs to be done. You've planned it, and you even told yourself tomorrow is the day, but tomorrow comes, and then somehow you're organizing your desk, or you're answering your emails, or you're scrolling social media, cleaning the kitchen, or finding literally anything else to do but the thing that you got to do. And then what happens? The guilt sets in. You start telling yourself you're lazy, undisciplined, unmotivated. Maybe you even wonder, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do the thing that I know I'm supposed to be doing and I'm not doing it? And just to let you guys know, I deal with it as well. I am past master at being able to come up with excuses and put things off till tomorrow. But there's this thing that I've talked about on the show recently, and you can go check it out. It's a Mel Robbins TED Talk, and she talks about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like, so oftentimes we're ready to give ourselves a bullshit story, especially in the morning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm just gonna hit the snooze bar. I'm gonna get 5 more minutes of sleep, and I'm gonna feel so much better. We know that's bullshit. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get up, put your feet on, put your shoes on, go to the gym. Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pick up the phone and make the phone call. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Call your friend. Do your whatever it might be. Just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do it. Because guess what? Once you open your mouth and once you take that action, there's no turning back, and then you get it done. whether it's imperfect, whether it's awesome, whether it's flawed, whatever it might be, you do it. And then guess what? You learn from it. And then you can go back and change it and correct it. And you can do all these things. But when you keep it in your brain and you don't do anything with it, guess what? It becomes this dark cloud hanging over your head, and it becomes a part of your identity. Oh, I never carry through on things. I've never finished things. I'm the shiny object syndrome. I have ADD. You do all this stuff, and guess what? You start telling yourself a story, and you stop doing the things that you need to do in order to become successful. And that's really what success is. I've determined in all the time of being a coach and doing podcasts like this and talking to successful people, it really is about taking that imperfect action, rewriting the story that you're trying to tell yourself to get out of doing the thing that you want to do, and just fucking doing it and just being successful on that. Because when you're telling yourself all these things, what if I told you that procrastination really wasn't your problem? That really procrastination is a symptom. Because here's what I've learned, both in my own life and coaching so many incredible people over the year, is your brain isn't trying to stop you from succeeding. It's trying to protect you from something. Maybe it's trying to protect you from failure. Maybe it's trying to protect you from judgment. Maybe it's protecting you from disappointing someone. Or maybe, and this one surprises a lot of people, maybe it's protecting you from success, because success often brings more visibility, more responsibility, and more expectations. And I can tell you as a coach, I found out, and it was pretty surprising when I first started coaching, how many people sabotage themselves because they're afraid of success, or they feel like they're an imposter. We've done shows here on imposter syndrome. You guys can go check it out. It's more everything. And then we just don't do it. I know people who have not been successful in their business or their career because they know when they make more money, more people are going to be asking them for money. I know my family's going to be hitting me up, and I just don't want to put myself in that situation. See, you found out why you're procrastinating. Right? So we don't understand what's underneath our procrastination. We make ourselves the enemy. And what do? We criticize ourselves. We pile on shame and promise that we'll try harder tomorrow. But shame has never been a sustainable strategy for change. Awareness is. So in this episode, we're going to help you understand what's really happening when you procrastinate, why self-sabotage shows up even when you're genuinely wanting to move forward, and most importantly, how to break the cycle with practical mindset shifts that actually work. So I'm a big believer in writing stuff down. So if you're jogging or you're driving and listening to this, I want you to go back and really take note for this. You got to fucking invest some time and some energy and pick some of these things that I'm going to talk about tonight and start focusing on them in your life. And I promise you, in 3 to 6 months, you could be in a different spot altogether just by sitting there saying, you know what, I'm not going to fucking do this to myself anymore. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to go to the gym. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm not going to buy the junk food. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to have a conversation with my spouse. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to have a conversation with my coworker. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to fix the thing that I've been tolerating to be broken all this time, because it's not going to be that big of a deal to do it. Right? So my hope is that by the end of this episode that you'll stop asking, how do I become more productive? And you'll start asking a much more powerful question. What is my brain trying to protect me from? Because that's the one question that has the power to change everything. And that's the way I look at it. Anything I do, I say, what's the one thing that by which doing so will offer me the greatest health factor? What's the one thing by doing that thing is going to help me feel more productive? What's the one thing that by doing which is going to make me feel like I have less weight that I'm carrying around in the world? There's a great book out there called The One Thing. And it really helped me identify, instead of 17 things, the one thing. So let's dig into this. A little sip of water. I'm a little fired up today. So what is procrastination really? Most people believe that procrastination is laziness. And in reality, procrastination is delayed action because of anticipated emotional discomfort. That's so important. I wrote it down. Procrastination is the delayed action because of anticipated emotional discomfort. And I can tell you, one of the biggest reasons why I procrastinate is I will tell myself a story about the thing that I'm about to do. And even though I know the thing is probably going to be easy or not a big deal, or it's going to make life better, I write the story in my mind because I've experienced it so many times that by doing this thing, I believe in my brain that something bad's going to happen and it's going to create more work for me. And so if I sit there and I think about getting it done, right, then I don't have to actually do it. But there's been so many times in my life where I've sat there and said, I'm going to prove myself wrong in this situation. And sometimes I haven't proven myself wrong. Case in point, my outside water faucet was dripping and dripping and dripping for months and months and months and months and months. You had to really cinch it down to turn it off. And so one day, knowing that it, generally speaking, is 2 wrenches or 1 wrench and a Phillips screwdriver, and you just replace a tiny little washer inside that thing, then it works. And I have the washer, I have everything. And so one day I sat there, I said, I'm going to time myself. And I went out there to do it. And by all stretch of the imagination, it took me 10 minutes. But then guess what? Something else went wrong. And my mind immediately went back to the procrastination thing. See, I knew something was going to happen. But then it only took me a few more minutes. And then I realized both things were fixed. And guess what? Now my hose isn't leaking in my backyard, creating mold. So it really wasn't that big of a deal. So procrastination is your brain isn't asking what's best for my future. Your brain is asking, how do I avoid discomfort right now? So when you think about that, that's bullshit, because you don't grow when you're comfortable. Look back on your life. Anything that you've had any measure of success and gone through, it's been a challenging thing, but you got through it. And then on the other side, you became stronger. You became more aware. You became better at asking questions. You became whatever it might be because you went through that. So our brain values immediate relief over long-term fulfillment. And so every time we delay, we reinforce the habit of avoidance. And so the root development of that is, of course, it begins in childhood, for being criticized for making mistakes, for being rewarded only for success, for growing up believing that mistakes equal failure. Parents, teachers, or coaches focusing more on outcomes than effort, learning that approval was conditional. And our brain eventually learned avoiding discomfort feels safer than risking failure. So think about that for yourself. But look at the people who are successful out there. They see it and they do it anyway. They're like, I'm going to fucking figure this thing out. And so when you have that enthusiasm, that creativity, that curiosity, like we did when we were kids, we never put filters on ourselves. We just fucking did it. Like we wanted to see how something worked. We took it apart and we figured it fuck out, or we learned our lesson not to take things apart. So when you think about questions that can help you at this part of the stage, what task have you been avoiding the longest? So think about that. What task have you been avoiding the longest? What emotion comes up for you when you think about starting? Oftentimes they're like, Chris, I just don't know where to start. Start somewhere. Start somewhere. Pick up the screwdriver. Go buy the part. Go YouTube how to do it a few times and start feeling like you've already done it and see how different people do it and realize there's a common thread on how to do it, and that no matter what, you're going to figure it out. And if you need to, at the end of the day, and you're doing something yourself and you need to hire a professional, you can still do that. So you got to ask yourself, what immediate relief do you get by putting it off? Right? We talk about there's an old fable about, the guy hears the dog moaning. He's sitting on the front porch step and he goes like, well, hey, why is your dog moaning? He goes, oh, he's laying on a nail. He's like, how come your dog doesn't get up from the nail? He's like, it doesn't hurt enough. Same thing applies in your life. Same thing applies with my faucet. It hurt. It bugged me. It pissed me off, but it obviously wasn't a big deal. But it's kind of cool when you sit there and say, you know what, there's a few things I've been procrastinating on and I'm just going to fucking do them. And you become a tornado and you figure it the fuck out, whether you get a handyman, whether you do it yourself. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, it wasn't that bad. And geez, it's kind of nice that the light switch works. It's kind of nice that my hose cuts off. It's kind of nice that the cabinet is updated and clean. It's kind of nice that I threw away shit that I don't need anymore. Whatever it might be that you're procrastinating on, let's do that. And one of the big reasons why we procrastinate is what I just mentioned before, fear of failure, right? Failure isn't what most people fear. They fear what failure means. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable. People will know I'm a fraud. People will know I'm an imposter. I'll prove my critics right, right? Failure attacks identity more than results. But I can tell you this, it's not failure. It's stepping stones. It's learning opportunities. Like if you don't get it right the first time, who says that's a failure? If you go back a second time, who says that's a failure? If you continue working on whatever it is that you're working on, and it may be a long process, you're building confidence. You're building resiliency. You're building belief, which I sell these wristbands, by the way, that say believe. Why does it say believe? Because you have to believe. You have to believe that the process is ultimately working out in your favor. You have to believe that the trials and the tribulations of your life are meant for you to build your character, to have integrity with yourself, to have values, to be able to say, you know what, I value tenacity. I value completing things. I value starting things and not giving up. I value that in other people, and I value that in myself. And guess what? Maybe up until now, I've done a spotty job on that, but now I'm going to make a commitment to myself. I'm going to raise my hand and give myself a promise that, you know what? I'm not going to shoot myself in the fucking foot anymore. Or if I do, maybe it's once in a while, like myself. But there have been times where I was sitting there going, Chris, you've had that on your to-do list for quite some time. Let's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, make the phone call. I did that last week with a bunch of things. Boom, 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 boom. Got them done. Wasn't on my list anymore. And guess what? The fun that I was able to experience, not having that hanging over my head anymore, was pretty tremendous. And so usually the fear of failure develops with having perfectionistic parents, right? My mother, Jesus Christ, she would take a look at my homework and she would mark red all over it. And she thought she got bonus points from God or from the teacher or from whoever for being able to mark it up and illustrate to me how unintelligent that I was. And back in those days, I called myself stupid. So we had perfectionist parents. We had public embarrassment. We had the school grading system, right? Who didn't shit their pants every once in a while when their report card came out, unless you were a straight A student, right? Athletic experiences. I can't count many times where it was like, no, I don't want to be embarrassed. My son's going through that right now at 9 years old. I can see that. So you had athletic experiences. You had early criticism. You know, some people may have been trying to do reverse psychology on us and it didn't work. And guess what? All we took from it is, that I'm a piece of shit and I'm not that smart and I'm not good enough and I don't matter. And people will say, why can't you be more like your sister? Why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like Mark or David or whoever it might be? So that begins our belief system. If I fail, I am a failure. Right? And that's not true. It's not true. So here's some questions you can ask yourself about failure. What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that can happen by me doing this? I cause more damage and it costs me more money, but ultimately it's still going to get fixed and I'm going to learn a lesson from it. But it's going to get done. So what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? I can ask my partner about the situation and they blow up at me and they don't like me anymore. They hate me. Okay, well, guess what? It's going to suck and it's going to hurt, but now at least I'm going to know where I stand in this relationship instead of wondering and tiptoeing and all this other stuff that potentially could draw out for years and years and years. And then you find out all that time was a waste of time. And I knew it. But if I would have taken that step to sit there and clarify or hold somebody accountable or be vulnerable myself, I would have known this and then I could have moved through it, but I got to move through it now anyway. And now it's even harder because now I'm mad at myself for all the time that I wasted and that I'm going to still need to do this anyway. So you can also ask yourself the question, is that actually true? Is what I'm saying about this situation actually even true? Or is that an assumption that I'm making about the situation in order to protect myself or order to give myself the excuse that I want to procrastinate on it? You can also ask yourself the very glaring question, have I survived failure before? And perhaps did I even grow from it? And I can tell you guys, so many people see me and they're like, oh, Chris, you're so enthusiastic and you're always a go-getter and you probably get everything right and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, I have stuck my foot in my mouth more times than I care to remember. I have failed and made more mistakes than I care to remember, but it's because of that tenacity to get back up and keep going, to get back up and keep going, to get back up and keep going, that I've earned a reputation for being resilient. I've earned a reputation for being unstoppable. That's why you see that a lot in my branding for the show and for my coaching is that unstoppable, because it truly is. It truly is. I'm unstoppable. I have a quote on my arm that says, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. And that's because in 2016, I was going through a rough time mentally. And I said, you know what? Every day is a new day. And what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And I realized a lot of things have made me strong and nothing has killed me. So why not sit there and put that, for those of you guys watching on the podcast, you guys know, put that right on my arm. Right? What's your motto? What is it you're going to do? Right? Jesus, think about it. Number two, I think, is what we do is fear of judgment. We procrastinate because we're afraid of being judged. We keep our dreams hidden. People will often ask, what will they think? What will they think? Like, who fucking cares what they think? If they're supportive, then awesome. And if they're not supportive, then perhaps you need to question why they're in your life, and that what would life be like if you had a better cheerleading team? Instead, you could think of, what will they think of if I never try? And judgment becomes louder than purpose. And usually this begins when we're kids. It happens through bullying, being laughed at, family criticism, social media comparison. If you're talking about the new day and age, all of us wanting acceptance, wanting to being told we have to fit in, right? Why can't you be like so-and-so? And then eventually we learn that being accepted feels safer than standing out. And I was that guy, man. I made a couple of blunders when I was young, and all of a sudden it was about not being seen, not being heard, trying to blend in, not trying to draw attention to myself. And it wasn't until much later in life where I decided to open my mouth and I started putting myself out there, and then eventually went from being a suit and tie speaker and wanting to be like everybody else in the personal growth space. And then I sat there and said, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to be the no excuses coach. I'm going to wear my hat on backwards and my bandana, and I'm going to swear. I'm going to swear from the heart, and I'm just going to be me. And that was a very challenging time in my life. That was around 2010, 2013. And I'd been very successful, and I was afraid. I was afraid of leaving that part of me behind and just really trusting and jumping into who I am at my core, loving myself, respecting myself, and being excited about being different, being excited about carrying the torch for other people to be inspired by. And I just had a guy tell me that today. He's like, you really seem authentic. And I love people who are authentic and vulnerable and share their stories. I'm like, it's been a long fucking journey. It's been a long journey. There have been some very, very depressing times in my life because I wasn't sure I was making the right decisions or I was doing the right thing. But then I'm like, does this align with my values? Is this something that somebody I respect and admired would do? And I'm a big music guy, so I sit there and I watch documentaries about bands and what it took for them to make it and how they didn't have any evidence or proof that they were going to make it, but they just trusted and they kept going, and they became Guns N' Roses, or they became Bon Jovi, or they became Motley Crue, where so many bands like hoped and wished and prayed that they would be successful, but there was always that dark cloud hanging over them of, oh, I don't know if we can do it. I don't know if we can do it. And guess what? That comes out in your actions. It comes out in the results, and you fortify what it is that you continue to believe about yourself. So the questions you can ask yourself about fear of judgment is, you can say, who am I trying not to disappoint? Who am I trying not to disappoint? It may surprise you. Like, give this some thought and really think about it. You can find out you don't want to disappoint your next door neighbor, right? Maybe you think that. Maybe it's an unrealistic comparison against an old best friend or a competitor at work or a girlfriend. I've actually coached women where they thought they had some sort of secret competition with their best friend. Do you think that would limit you in some way? Then you can ask yourself the question, whose opinion carries too much weight? A lot of people still care about what their parents think, even though their parents haven't been supportive, don't do anything for them. Maybe reverse psychology. Maybe it's just that they're cantankerous or they're negative or whatever it is. Who in your life has an opinion that carries too much weight? Maybe it's your brother. Oh, my older brother. I really have always looked for what he thinks, and I care about what he thinks. The person you need to care about their opinion with the weight and the significance that it deserves is you. Like, really, like, after this podcast, you listen to it, go stand in the mirror and look at yourself. And I know it's awkward. I know it's uncomfortable, but look into your own eyes and sit there and say, I believe in you, motherfucker. I believe in you. I know that no matter what happens in your life, that you can continue to persevere, that you can continue to get back up again and again and again, and that you will become stronger, and you won't make as many mistakes, and you will have more successes, and you will have more confidence in trusting yourself in the unknown. Because a lot of this comes down to, is there certainty or uncertainty? And if there's uncertainty, I'm going to run the other way. I'm going to go to my short-term gratification, my scrolling, my shopping, my Netflix, whatever it might be that distracts you the most, your video games, again, gambling, sex, sports, whatever it might be. Maybe you go less to that and you sit there and say, you know what, that's my payoff. That's what I get to do after I do what I need to do. Think about that. How would you feel if nobody judged you? And then the real big question is, what would you start tomorrow? Or what can you start right now? There's things that you could possibly do. You could get out a pen and paper and sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to write out all the action steps for the thing that I need to do. And I'm going to look at the thing that is the most uncertainty. And then I'm going to give myself a couple of offshoot ideas that I can do in case that happens. Okay. In case it goes sideways, here's what I can do. In case it goes backwards, here's what I can do. Here's some people I can ask for their opinion. I mean, realistically, you got Google, you got YouTube, and now you got whatever AI software you use. I use ChatGPT, but you can use artificial intelligence, and you can ask it a lot of tough questions, and you can tell it to hold you accountable, and you can tell it to ask you questions in order for it to dig into the deepest reasons why you might procrastinate. You can go in there and type, ask ChatGPT, why is it that I procrastinate so much? And it'll ask you a ton of questions, and it'll hold you accountable. And guess what? I've used that for relationships. I've used that for communication. I'm about to use it for a couple other things, and it's pretty intense and it's pretty crazy what you can do in the course of 20 minutes to an hour and uncover some of the shit that's holding you back. And it can give you alternatives to maybe to try in lieu of maybe something produces a lot of anxiety. So here's some deep breathing exercises. You know, here's some tapping exercises that you can do. You know, here's some written exercises that you can do to prepare yourself to be successful. There's all sorts of stuff. And something that I mentioned earlier is the fear of success. Like, why do we procrastinate? Success creates change. Change creates uncertainty. So success often means more responsibility, higher expectations, visibility, leadership, new identity, and the list goes on. And I've experienced success in my professional career. I think I was promoted 5 times in 3 years. Boy, did that come with new expectations. Boy, did that come with a lot of people watching me. Like, who is this fucking guy to be a director now? Who is this guy to take over 2 departments that he has no idea what to do? We should hire somebody who's had experience in it before. We'd already gone that route. And so I raised my hand and said, give me a shot. Give me 6 months. If I can't do it, then hire somebody else. Don't even pay me. Let's do this on the down low. But if I do it, here's what I require. Here's what I request. Right? So you think in terms of success, you fear losing the life that you know. And that really is scarcity, imposter syndrome, the need for certainty. And the root of where the fear of success comes into is, again, looking at your parents or thinking to yourself, money is evil. I've had people tell me money's the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil, and they're dead broke. I'm like, you've already established the fact that it's evil. And especially if you're a religious person, that even carries more weight. Money changes people, right? Ambition makes you selfish. Wealth means exploitation. Success will make others distrust me. I may become someone I do not respect. Well, guess what? If you start becoming someone you don't respect, you change it. You have people in your life that will say, hey, Chris, you've really become very egotistical in the last 6 months since you took on that promotion. Hey, Chris, you seem to have a lot less time for your friends than you did before. It's important to have people in your life, guys, that will raise the flag and sit there and say, hey, Chris, you're fucking up. Hey, Chris, you're not on plan. Hey, Chris, I really love and care about you, but I see some changes. Because if you have nothing but yes people in your life that tell you how great you are, those are the people that you should look out and perhaps have a little less trust for as to why they're doing it. And I've had people fill me up and boast me up because they were riding my coattails. I've had people want me to be successful so that I could teach them what to do, and then they could fucking circumvent me and take my job or do whatever. Right? I've had my wife, my girlfriend, yeah, that was actually my wife at the time, had her cheat on me with my best friend. So my best friend was like, oh, hey, I saw what you did. I just need to do the other things that you're fucking up on, and I can get your girl. I've had people like see where I'm fucking up in my job, do that better and take my job. The list goes on. And you know what I say to that and all that? It all happens for a reason. And there's parts of me now that are very grateful for those situations that happened, that sometimes you would look on, oh, my life changed in that moment. But yeah, it changed for the better because now you're with the person you're with now, or now you have the job that you have now, or now that you have the entrepreneurial thing because you got pushed out the door, whatever it might be. So when you think about that, You got to sit there and look at, does ambition make me selfish? Right? Do I fear becoming different? And this is a big thing. And I will share this with you guys because I'm sure people have dealt with it or people are dealing with it that are listening to this podcast right now, is the fact that you will become different. When you apply yourself and you go for the things that other people don't go for, if you do the 1%, right? And you stay up a little bit later, you get up a little earlier, you get a coach, you take classes, you join masterminds, you do this stuff. The people in your life are either going to get with the program and get inspired by you, or they may go, what are you doing? And why are you doing that? And where did the old Chris go? And all this other stuff. And you sit there and say, you know what? I'm charting a fucking course. Like, come along with me. I'll show you the way. I'll show you the things that I'm doing. I'll introduce you to the people I'm meeting, but don't try to drag me down. Don't be like the old story of the crabs in the bucket, right? You know, the crabs in the bucket, they could either easily stand on one another and kind of get to the top and pull each other out. But guess what? The crabs that aren't getting to the top start pulling the other crabs down. And so they all stay in the bucket. But all you got to do is like the horse analogy. If your horse is stuck in a hole, just keep putting the dirt underneath the horse and the horse will be able to climb out. You got to ask yourself, when will you have had enough? When will you have had enough of the bullshit? When will you have had enough of the storytelling? When will you have had enough of the self-sabotage? Because guess what? You're going to get to a point in your life where you're going to die. And before you die, you get to look back on your life and go, fuck, man, I wish I would have done all those things that I was scared to do, that I said I was going to do and I didn't do. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, but instead of that, maybe ask yourself, what's the best that can happen? There it is. Shifting your perspective. There's the golden goose that laid the golden egg. What could go right? Fuck, I could actually apply myself and get this shit done. I could actually get the book done. I could actually start a business. I could actually start selling my bread. I can actually fucking show up to singer-songwriter night, whatever it is for you. So you can ask yourself, what if my dream came true? What if your dream came true? What would you lose? What relationships might change? Who would expect more from you? And I've seen it and I've seen it and I've seen it and I've seen people have to make tough decisions. I've had people to get real honest with others and say, you know what? I'm not giving you this because you didn't work for it. You didn't earn it. But I tell you what, if you do these things, then I'll support you and I'll help you. But you have to want to do it. I'm not going to give you the tools to do it and then see if you can do it. You got to do it and then show me you've done it. And so tough love is a requirement in life, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't tell you how many times people have been scared and afraid, and I don't want to do that. I don't know what's going to happen. If the person's meant to be in your life, whether they're a best friend, whether they're a sister, whether they're your wife or your spouse or your partner or your boss or whoever it might be, if they're meant to be in your life, they'll be in your life. But if it's only for, I say that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, then maybe it is only a reason or a season. Very few get to be in there for a lifetime. And I've had to make those decisions. I had to let my sister go after reconnecting with her, after not seeing her for 25 years. I spent a year reconnecting with her, and I'm like, I wish you all the best. I hope you have an amazing life. And none of it was said with ill will or malice or anything else. I'm like, I hope you have an amazing life. I hope you get what you want, but please don't ever contact me again. We were just two completely different people. And I decided, if I didn't share blood with this person, would I want anything to do with them? Yes or no? And yeah, she's my sister, same mom, different dad, but we really didn't spend any time together. We really didn't have any relationship. And when we reconnected, it was all about what I could do for her, what I could give her, and how I could listen to all her sob stories, but she wouldn't take any responsibility or do anything to make her life better. And I'm like, I'm not fucking staying around for that. And it does hurt and it does suck. I think about it often, like she could be an aunt to my kid, but no, hard line. Old best friend. Hey, we should hang out more. We should get back together. Fuck, we have all this history. And I'm like, you know what? No. And I thought about it. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be a dick and But I'm like, the only thing we have in common is our past. And so how often can you talk about your past? And so I wrote a really nice email. It was an email he sent me. And I wrote a really nice email. And I was like, hey, man, we've had some great times. You know, I just don't see any sense and purpose of doing this. You know, I came down there and you didn't show up. And there was some things. And I gave it a lot of care. And I'm like, you know, if you ever need anything, let me know. Maybe we'll get together every once in a while, but I don't see that. And within 5 minutes, I had a response that said, okay, I'll delete you from my phone. That's all it said. Hey, Chris, thanks a lot for the well thought out message. Amen. I appreciate it. We did have some good times. I will keep you in touch. I will delete you from my phone. Guess what? Did I feel good about that decision that I made? Have I stuck to it? 100%. Do I wish that person any ill will? No. If I found out that person passed away, I'd be bummed. I would go to their funeral. We were best friends. We did have a lot of experiences together, but in the ultimate grand scheme of things, he was very condescending, very two-faced, all sorts of stuff. He's trolled me on social media. I've only had one troll really in my entire life, and it was him. And I could tell it was him. And there was a recent experience that happened with my YouTube that I knew was him. His name was even Robert in the thing. I'm like, come on. So here's another reason why we procrastinate: perfectionism, right? Perfectionism sounds responsible. Actually, procrastination is dressed up as preparation. Let me say that again. Procrastination is dressed up as preparation. I'll start when I'm ready. I'll start when I know enough. I'll start when I have more time. I'll start when everything lines up. Perfect never arrives. You don't need any more information. You don't need, just fucking do it. Like nowadays, you could sit there and tell ChatGPT to give you an outline of the things to do in order to achieve X. I've had more people than not recently say they want to start a podcast. Can I pick your brain on that? Of course. And I've given people information, but all you need to go to Google, go to ChatGPT. I want to start a podcast and I want to do it in 3 phrases. The first phase, I don't want it to cost me any money. Can I do it with my phone? Yes or no? Yeah. Okay. What are the 4 things I need to do in order to get a podcast broadcast out that perhaps is free? So all you got to do is talk to technology and use technology to be your best friend, or hire a coach, hire somebody who is in that field who does those things. Right. But picking somebody's brain, I know people that pick my brain and I love you guys, but there's still people out there that I've talked to over the last 3 or 4 years that said they wanted to start a podcast or write a book and they haven't done it. And they still haven't hired me as a coach. But yet I'm sure they're out there whining and being self-deprecating. I see it. I've seen a few people that said they were going to join my group coaching program, which I have, by the way, which is very affordable. People, oh yeah, I need to join that. I need to join that. I need to join that. They don't join it. And I still see their post wailing and flailing and asking everybody to support them being a victim. Perfection never arrives, right? How about we think about that? Praise for achievement instead of effort is one of the reasons that happens. High expectations. Like my mother had super high expectations for me. Conditional love, fear of criticism. Also, the thing that we do a lot is we compare ourselves to others. So when you think about it, why don't you do this? Here's an exercise. Why don't you write down 5 things that you've become really good at? And then ask yourself, were you good before you started? So what are 5 things that you become good at? And were you good when those things started? No. Like my son, he gets frustrated. He's like, I don't like to do that. I'm like, dude, how did you become good at Minecraft? How did you become good at Fortnite? How did you become good at whatever it might be? Well, I did it and I did it and I did it. I'm like, yeah, you have to understand that there's some things you may not be naturally good at the beginning, but you sit there and you take that feedback and you sit there and say, okay, what can I do a little bit differently? Right? We don't give up. We don't fall down. The failure isn't the falling down. The failure is the staying down. And I've seen people, I got to regroup myself and I got to do this and I got to do this. I've seen people go entire decades. I haven't seen them. And within 5 minutes of talking to them, they're in the same spot. And like I said before, when we're all going to die, do you want to look back on your life and have regrets? Like, man, I regret not starting that business. I regret always thinking about starting the podcast. I regret that I didn't, take more pictures. I didn't follow my passion for photography because I didn't think I was good enough, whatever it might be. That's why coaches exist. That's why professionals exist. And now more than ever, you can find your tribe. You can join a group. You can learn, become a part of a community, become part of a book writers group, become a part of a florist group, become a part of a singers group, become part of whatever it is. Gardening, right? Here's another thing that happens. We often procrastinate because we're overwhelmed. Anybody here raise your hand if you're overwhelmed? I can see a few people raising their hand. Listen, guys, the brain does not like uncertainty. Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. I encourage you to connect with Tony Robbins and learn about certainty versus uncertainty. Read the book, Awaken the Giant Within. That was a game changer for me. I couldn't put that book down, right? So learn how to deal with uncertainty again or differently, right? Overwhelm creates paralysis. Action creates clarity. And so the root from where this develops could be chaos from growing up. Could be poor planning skills never taught, right? Maybe your parents weren't good at that. You're like, oh, I'm terrible at that. I inherited that from my dad. No, trust me, you can read lots of books. I read books on organization, disorganization, why we hang on to things when we want to throw them away. You can also get tested for ADHD. Like in my 30s, I got tested for ADD and then found out I was ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or it could be burnout. So what you can do is you could take one overwhelming goal, and I encourage everybody to do this. I'm a fan of writing things down. I keep these pads of paper with me all the time. Write it down, break it into the first step. What's the first thing? I put a check mark or a check mark box next to the first thing. What's the first thing? What's the second thing? What's the third thing? What are some things that maybe I can accomplish in 5 minutes? What's the one step that I can break down even into smaller steps? Open the product file. Start typing a few things. People tell me, I don't know what to type for my book. I'm like, just start typing a story. Pick one of your favorite stories and start typing about it. Type the next story. Create 5 stories and then go, oh, you know what? I've got a theme here. Let me go back and write an introduction to these 5 stories and talk about the person that I was before I started doing these 5 things. And then maybe on the other side, I talk about the growth that I experienced from completing those 5 things and maybe some of the lessons that I've learned in that. And then all of a sudden you have a book. And then all of a sudden you have a book. So there's other reasons why we procrastinate, but I also want to leave a little time for something you can do. As you know, this show is all about things that you can do on your own. So you can sit there and you can realize the question, what am I protecting myself from? Every procrastination behavior serves a purpose. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to keep you emotionally safe. And it's probably trying to protect you from that rejection, the criticism, the disappointing someone, the looking foolish, succeeding and having more expectations, uncertainty. Like I can't tell you, like in my jobs and my career, I would exceed expectations and that became the norm. And that became the norm until I started failing everybody's exceeded expectations, unrealistic expectations. So then I stopped losing favor with people. Like, what's wrong with Chris? What's wrong with Chris? I'm like, you guys gave me fucking unrealistic expectations and I've been busting my ass for the last 3 years to do it, but I can't do it anymore. And that's on me. I should have raised the flag and said, hey, this is not realistic. But guess what? The people and pleaser in me and everything about me decided that I wasn't going to fail, but it cost me my health. I can tell you this, guys, my adrenals crashed twice in my life. And that's something you do not want to do. Adrenal fatigue, adrenal failure is not a pretty situation. And the only thing you can do for that is rest. And I've never, ever fully come back from draining my adrenals. And guess what? I did that to make everybody else happy. So when you think about that, what is it you can say? You can say your brain doesn't care if you're successful. It cares if you're safe. And so another thing you can do is you can ask yourself, what story are you believing? What story are you believing? What am I making this task to mean about me? What am I making this task to mean about me? If I fail, I'm not smart. If I launch, people will judge me. If I say no, people won't like me. If I charge more, I'm greedy. Why? Because behavior follows belief. Most people attack behavior, and successful people examine their beliefs. Again, there's a reason why believe is on the wristbands that I sell. Another thing you can do is you could stop waiting to feel ready. Oh, yeah, I just don't feel. You're never going to feel ready. Not unless you get the cancer diagnosis, not unless your partner divorces you, not unless you get fired and there's enough leverage to cause you to move, you'll never feel ready. You'll always constantly having those excuses going on in your brain and the scarcity mindset that I did. But guess what? When you have people like me in your life, you have a coach, you're part of a group coaching program, or you're a part of my one-on-one coaching program, there's no excuses. There's only opportunities. And I ask you questions to say, okay, what are a couple of things that you can do this week that by which doing so are going to create some massive momentum? And I can guarantee you this, everybody I've coached would say this, that I have changed their perspective about what it is that they can accomplish. I've changed their belief systems about them, their sense of self-worth. I've had people overcome imposter syndrome. I'm like, how do you have imposter syndrome? You have proven outcomes that show that you're not an imposter, that you are worthy of this. Why do you keep thinking you're lucky? Stop waiting to feel ready. You just got to do it. Again, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And another thing you do when you feel overwhelmed or you're dealing with procrastination is, again, like shrink the mountain. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Open the laptop, create the file, write one paragraph, write one sentence, take one picture, go to the gym once and sit there and say, I'm going to make a commitment to myself and I'm going to go 4 days a week for the next 3 weeks. And if at the end of those 3 weeks, I don't feel any better, I don't feel any sense of confidence anymore, if I don't feel like I could breathe a little bit better, I could put my shoes on easier, then maybe I don't need to do it. But I have had people do that and they've inevitably come back to me and like, man, I'm drinking more water, my skin's clearer, I'm able to think better, I'm getting better sleep, I'm making better choices about my food, I'm not distracting myself as much. Geez, Chris, I wish I would have done it so much sooner. Right? I wish I'd have done it sooner. Stop negotiating with yourself. I think we just did a podcast about self-negotiation and all that stuff. So I encourage you to go back and listen to it, because the longer you debate, the harder it becomes, right? Your brain starts to build evidence for why you should quit. So ask yourself this: what would the future me wish I had already started? Because we think about it in terms of this way. Oh, I want to be a successful entrepreneur. I want to be a really good husband. I want to be a really good dad. I want to be a really good photographer. But we wait for the evidence before we start to believe it. But what would the future you, like if you were that person, that successful now, right here in this moment, having not done it, how would you act? What choices would you make? What would that successful version of yourself appreciate from you in a couple of weeks? Like which version am I being right now? Am I being the scarcity, woe is me, I can't do it, I'm not ready person? Or am I the person that sits here and says, you know what, it may be challenging, it may be difficult, it may be something that's kind of overwhelming, but fucking hell, I'm going to attack this one step at a time. Like if I need to lose 25 pounds, I'm going to start with the first 16 ounces. How can I start changing what it is that I'm putting into my body while simultaneously burning some more calories? What medical tests can I go get done on my thyroid, on my hormones? Could I consider hiring a personal trainer for the first 3 months to hold me accountable, to show me the right ways to exercise, to get some results under my belt? But so oftentimes we don't want to spend the money. Oh, I can't afford it. I can do it on my own. I'm a lone wolf, right? And you kind of can now with artificial intelligence and whatnot. But I would not be sitting here today not having mentors and coaches and people in my life that said, hey, Chris, what about that? Like I've been a part of masterminds where you walk in after a quarter, after 3 or 4 months or half a year, and everybody's up there like, oh, this is what I got going on. This is what I got going on. And the pressure, the positive pressure to show up and to raise your game because you're around people who are brighter and smarter than you is pretty incredible. But the same holds true. If you look around the 5 people you're around the most, chances are that your income is going to be right around those terms. Your relationships are going to probably be right around what those other people are experiencing because you're kind of like there. But you start getting around people who have successful marriages, who read the 5 love languages, that read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, who read when your spouse has ADHD, when you start going like, holy shit, you've read those 5 books and you seem to be really happy in your relationship. I'm going to do those things. And there's so much more I could share on this particular episode, but we're getting near time. So I just want to thank you guys for wherever you're at around the world for listening to the podcast in this form. And I ask you to please consider sharing it. Who are a couple of people in your life that you could sit there and say, hey, I just watched or I just listened to this podcast about procrastination. And you know what? I want you as my accountability partner. So can you watch this and listen to this and take some notes? And perhaps the notes you take that are applicable to you and the notes that I've taken that are applicable to me, we could start holding each other accountable. So maybe every week or every 2 weeks we get together and I tell you 3 things I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks. And you're going to tell me 3 things you're going to do over the next couple of weeks. And we regroup in a couple of weeks and we go, hey, did you do that? Yeah, I did. Fuck, how did you do it? What kind of mindset did you have to get into? Well, honestly, it wasn't easy, but here's what I did. Or if you didn't do it, then the other person could say, okay, you said you were going to do it. You said you knew what you were going to do. Why didn't you do it? Well, I didn't feel like it, or, this came up or that came up or that came up or that came up. Okay, well, it sounds like perhaps you maybe need some time management. Why don't we do this? Why don't we find a couple of things that we can both learn about time management? And then a couple of weeks from now, I teach you what I learned about time management. You teach me what you learn about time management. And now we have some additional skills to be able to help us in our procrastination, in our goal setting. And heck, why don't we join Chris's group coaching program? And together in 6 months, we can sit there and look back and go, holy shit, I wish I'd have done it sooner. Or you can keep doing what you've been doing. You have that right. You have that you have that opportunity to continue doing what you've always done. You can hope, wish, pray that something changes, or you can decide. You can make the choice. You can make the commitment. You can make the promise to yourself that today you're done with it. And it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be easy. It takes tenacity. It takes responsibility. It takes courage. You can go to ChatGPT. You can go to Google. You can ask some friends, what is the greatest book on courage that you've ever read? Some people might tell you to watch The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell on YouTube. It's 1 hour and 26 minutes. I tell people to watch that all the time. You can watch that and you can come out of it and go, holy shit, now I get how life is. I get why I like certain movies, and I cheer for the underdog. We cheer for the underdog because we're the underdog. But we got to put ourselves in the light. We got to put ourselves in the starting mat to sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because at the end of the day, I'm here to live this life. And so many people think that there's tomorrow or there's someday. Like, show me where someday is on a calendar. I invite people. Oh, I'm going to start soon. Give me a date. Well, I don't know exactly, and I don't want to give myself unrealistic expectations. Just give me any date. If today is August 4th, which it is, tell me October 15th that you're going to have 3 things done that are going to help your fitness and your health. And if you need help, I'll help you. Like, make commitments, put the shit on the line. Tell people what it is you're going to do. Get an accountability partner. But for God's sakes, don't waste your time. Lead by example, inspire other people. You can do it. I know you can because I've done it. I went from being a homeless 7th grade dropout, living in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs, with a mother with very psychological disorders. I was into drugs and alcohol, and by every stretch of the mean, I should have been in jail or dead. But because I chose to believe in myself, because I chose to do the hard work, because I chose to go back and get my GED at 18 years old, because I chose to go to college for 12 years and ultimately get my master's degree the same year I bought my first house, because I did what other people weren't willing to do, I got promotions and I had a successful corporate career. And it sucks. Sometimes it was very alone. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to be normal. Why can't I just be like everybody else? But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to challenge my greatness. I'm here to be better than I've ever been before and continue to make a mark in this world so that when my dying day comes, I can look back on my life and be proud of the things that I did and didn't do. I can look at it with a sense of accomplishment that I came in sliding sideways saying, holy shit, what a ride. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Raw Unscripted show on procrastination. So I would love an email from you, info@noexcusescoach.com, info@noexcusescoach.com. Tell me what it is that you got from this episode. Tell me perhaps something that has helped you in your procrastination that I missed. And also, while you've got my attention, send me a couple of ideas of what you would like to see show topics on in the future, and I will definitely embrace that. I love getting your guys' feedback saying, hey, Chris, have you done a show on relationships? I've done lots of shows. We're on 379, I think. Today's 379. So we've done quite a number of shows over the last 7 years. And there's lots more to come. I've been interviewing people that are going to be guests on the show. Again, go back and listen to the conversation with Yvonne Silver last week. It's an amazing conversation. Go back and check some of the recent podcasts out. Find some of those titles that resonate with you. Commit them, put them down, make a little journal of success. I have this little journal right here. It's a little thing. You can get these everywhere, and you can make notes, and you can have a journal for success things. You can have a journal for frustrations. You can have a journal for gratitude, whatever it might be. You can have a list of all the things you're proud of. You can list out the things that you've been successful in your life and that you didn't think you could do, but you ultimately did, and show yourself that evidential proof that you can do it, and you're kick-ass unstoppable. We'll see you next time on the Raw